Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Hope you had a good weekend. And if you're involved in MGP and Classic TT, that all is going well. Worrying news about some people not obeying marshals. Obviously, there'll be first-timers who think the marshals are just there to look pretty, which they do, of course, but they're also there with a very important job, so I hope that gets nipped in the bud. So, any thoughts, anything on your mind, by all means do get in touch. Call, text, email and WhatsApp and message on 166177. Email studio@manxradio.com. Call 66 13 68, whatever you want to talk about. It is an open line today on Mannin Line. What about that Isle of Man State of Style report that said that women have rated the clothing offered on the Isle of Man as 3.5 out of 10. 3.5 out of 10. This company called the Vera Ray Image Consultancy compiled the data, and other key points show that women have low style confidence and want a more personal shopping experience. Well, I wonder what you think about that. Any thoughts about it? By all means, do get in touch. Carol's on with us now. Hi, Carol.
Good morning, Andy. How are you?
Well, fantastic thing. What's on your mind?
Good, right, okay. Well, a while ago there was a big panic because Next were going to close down.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that they're not now, that all has been resolved, because I was the first manager of Next when they opened at number 24 Strand Street many, many years ago. Now, at the time this panic was on, media were saying they'd been on the high street in Douglas for 25 years. No, that's wrong, because I retired as a manager of Next when I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter, who is now 41. That is how long Next have been on the high street.
Right. And what's where Next used to be?
Nothing now. When Next moved out, Charles Alexander Jewellers moved in.
Oh, right.
When Charles Alexander Jewellers moved out, that, to my knowledge, well, as far as I can tell, has never been occupied since. It's still there with the number 24 above it. It's next door to what is now Boots. And it's just had a metal shutter down on it ever since Charles Alexander Jewellers moved out.
So was it just the ground floor, or was it first floor as well?
No, it was just the ground floor when it was Next. Yeah, right. It was. It had previously been Kendall's fashion,
right,
and that's who I was employed with when that company was taken over by Hepworth Taylors and developed into Next with George Davis and Liz Deborah Batchelor and all the crew from Leicester, who developed Next. And we were one of the first, I can't remember the date now because I'm old and forgetful, but I do remember that we were one of the first 12 branches to open. They opened 12 on the first day, and Douglas Isle of Man, branch number 040, I can remember that, was one of the first to open.
And you'll remember what trade was like then?
It was slack for the first year, simply because the clientele who had bought from Kendall's Fashions were not the same clientele as Next was aimed at. And for all the publicity, the Manx ladies were a little bit slow to come and try until I finally managed to persuade the area manager to let us have a fashion show, which we held at the Villiers. And from then onwards... It
was that long ago, it was the Villiers.
Yep, the fashion show was in the Villiers. When I think Donald Slee was the manager there.
Oh, my word, yes.
Yeah, so it was that long ago that Next started in the Isle of Man. And it was just slightly before that, when it was still Kendall's, that the head office in Leicester sent an auditor over to do an audit, which they did. They just turned up on the doorstep in case you were up to anything naughty, which we weren't. And 2 years later, I married that auditor. He's lived on the island ever since.
Well, that's one way of getting a good stock take, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. He's had to put up with me for 43 years now, but there you go. So I just wanted to say, people were panicking because Next was leaving and saying it had been on the island for 25 years. No, it's been on the island a lot longer than that.
Okay, how do you perceive then that women's fashion has changed on the island, and women's buying habits, how have they changed, do you think?
Sadly, a lot of online. To be quite honest. And it's something, I have to admit now, my sins, that I do myself. Simply because now that I'm very old and very fat, I don't fit into Next Fashions anymore. I would love to be able to, if I could. I would go to the shop. I would not shop online. But I do shop in the high street if I can, or out at St John's, or Marks and Spencer's, or the fashion shops at St John's. I think it's a lot more sophisticated, to be quite honest. I think we've gone up the sophistication ladder at least 2 or 3 or 4 rungs or more. And there's a distinct line between that and what the younger, livelier people are wearing.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that my granddaughter wears, I think, oh my goodness, is there actually any fabric there at all? Sometimes. But, it's evolution, isn't it? Things
it is.
change.
And bearing in mind, people were saying that 50 years ago, is there any fabric to that, weren't they?
Yes. Yeah.
My word.
Oh, yeah. I'm a child of the 60s. I had to go to Liverpool to buy my first mini skirt when I was in my teens.
My word. Carol.
But yeah, the fashion scene on the island has developed a lot more since then.
Well, it's interesting, and certainly, and I know the fact that, obviously Next have stayed because they came to a deal with the property owner and whatever the rent is, they did. But I mean, Next also, and I know this for a fact because I've taken some stuff back, Next acts as a kind of receiving station for online returns, doesn't it?
It does, as well as sales, yes. I have to admit that what I buy in Next now tends to be for I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and it tends to be for her because I think they have lovely things for children. And they have lovely children things for everybody, but I just can't fit in them anymore. So,
okay.
Yeah, but it does, yes. I've been in there when people have been bringing things back or picking things up, know.
Oh, well, I have to say, I was taking something back when they were on the brink of closing. And I asked the person there how many items they get per day. He told me up to 300. Up to 300 items. The busy times, because of what people buy online, maybe they buy 3 of something, knowing that 1 will fit them, and the other 2 go back. So it's obviously that's a real change in buying and in fashion retailing as well. And do you miss it, by the way, Carol?
I did to begin with, but like I say, now I'm old and fat. No, I don't.
Aren't we all?
But it's I did. I missed the business of it, and I mean, in those days there was no such thing as maternity leave, and you go back to your job. Your job went when you were 6 months pregnant. That was it. You went. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And I managed to stay at home for a couple of years. With our daughter before I had to look for other employment, and then I went back onto the high street and worked. There was a shoe shop opposite what is now Deal's, and it was called Leonard's, and I got a job as manager there for a couple of years, and then I ended up at Isle Newspapers in their front office when it was on the corner of Lord Street and Ridgeway Street where Fletcher's the tailors used to be.
Right. What do you think now, Carol, when you look at Strand Street? What's your immediate kind of reaction to what Strand Street looks like?
What it looks like, apart from the sort of logistics of it being neat and tidy and clean, there's not enough variety of shops. We have so many coffee shops and charity shops. To me, that's not that I don't like coffee shops and charity shops, but to me that's a degeneration and a shame, because we haven't got the variety of choice that we used to have, 20, 30 years ago. But I think that's the same for all high streets.
Well, I mean, in a way, we're better, and certainly we're better off than places around the UK, certainly around Scotland and what have you, because you've got payday loan shops, vape shops here, there and everywhere, whereas at least we're kind of safe from that, really. There aren't many vape shops knocking around, but certainly, I mean, I don't know whether it's the cost of renting properties, whether commercial rents are too high on Strand Street, whatever it is. But
I think that's certainly a factor. Yeah.
Okay. Carol, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for that. The first manageress. The first manageress
of Next.
Yes. I appreciate that.
My only claim to fame.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Howard might tell you otherwise, but
marrying the auditor, that was a very smart move.
Marrying the auditor. Oh, wasn't it just, yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling, Carol. Good to hear from you.
All right, Andy.
Cheers.
Thanks.
17 minutes past 12. I just wonder what your thoughts are, and that's a great insight into what Strand Street has used to be and is now. And on a serious note, we don't know. We often hear from, and if you know anybody who ever rents a property on Strand Street, if you say, what's the rent like, they'll roll their eyes and just say, it's enormous. Now, I don't know whether charity shops get a deal on the rent, but there are a lot of coffee shops. And just like Carol, I'll have a cup of coffee, but not that many cups of coffee. I mean, there are coffee shops here, there and everywhere. So what will be the answer to this? And that's the point, I think, that the Vera Ray image consultants were talking about. To get good shops into somewhere like Strand Street. I know also, of course, to Parliament Street as well. Obviously, the offering to Timble Mills is impressive, perhaps not as impressive as it used to be, but it is still there. It's the only, if you like, department store on the Isle of Man. But any thoughts, by all means, do get in touch. Let's go to John with us now. Hi, John.
Hello there, Andy. How are you, my boy?
Very well. What's on your mind?
Well, I've been watching very closely the brilliant work that Manx Radio have been doing in regard to the upcoming election, which I know from watching it, you guys agree is going to be the most important election in the history, the sort of modern history of the Isle of Man. And as you know, I've been an advocate for sustainability for decades in the island, and equally recently built the island's first fully and truly sustainable house, which you might be interested to know in the beginning of next year will become the first affordable modular house in the island that can be at volume built within social and affordable housing budget to the newly released UK green building net zero building standard. Now, I've been supporting, or with background information that links to our research, several candidates who are currently standing for the House of Keys, and I'd just like to make the public generally aware, and if they're not already aware, just how serious this election is going to be. And it is critical that everyone who has a vote in the island uses that vote, but at the same time they need to look very closely at all the candidates and basically choose those who they are convinced are going to do what is necessary over the next 5 years to make sure that the island is going to survive what is happening globally at the moment. Uh-huh. And we've got the basics of it. We're the only sole jurisdiction in the world to have full UNESCO biosphere status. That is potentially the basis for massive potential for both education and income to the island, but we have to utilise it properly. And to date, sadly, we're not. The government has been too timid. I mean, in my opinion, the only really effective thing they've done in this respect, in the current ending term of this government, is to create the Manx Development Corporation, because they have proven that they can bring projects in on time and on budget. Whereas if you look at pretty much all the current or the previous last decade's government projects, they've all basically run, in many cases, I mean, for instance, the nursing home at the top of Victoria Road, I mean, originally budgeted at 9.4 million, came in at 14.6 million. It's madness. The technology exists to move away from masonry construction to modular construction, and our incoming government needs to stand up to the developers on this island and say, you might want to maintain the current concept, the current build format, but we cannot afford it. We have to start using modular construction so that we can build houses that will massively reduce the energy that they consume, and apply this across the board.
Okay.
I mean,
in lay terms, John, what is a modular house? What's modular?
A modular house it's basically a flat pack house. And I mean, many people have seen our houses in Victoria Road, and the thing was, each of those houses on the prepared foundation was wind and watertight in under 2 days, right? And this is a 3-storey, 4-bedroom house. A similar house. Now, what's interesting about it, as I discovered, is that at the time, the developers building similar-sized houses in masonry at volume, their budget for each house was 140,000. We, at the pilot stage, with all the problems of the pandemic and everything else, came in at £144,000. So that's how we became aware that we can actually build these houses within existing social and affordable housing budgets in a very short time. In the first year that we lived in, I mean, I live in one of the houses, number 47 in Victoria Road, and in the first year we use off-peak electric. That is the only source of input energy to the house we have. We don't have gas or oil, we don't need it. In the first year, our total heating cost and all our use of off-peak electric for the whole year was under £300, right? And that at the time, that was before the electric went through the roof. I mean, the off-peak was about 6 at that time, and the peak use was 12. It's now, the off-peak is now 18, or thereabouts, about 18, and the peak is circa 30 pence a unit. So, I mean, I've been lobbying government and all, not just government, local government, central government, developers for so long, and there's just no interest. The developers do not want to change. They do not want to move away from masonry construction, but we have to.
Why don't they, John?
Because it's what they know. Because they make money from it. They can make money from it. They've got everything they need. I went to a government-run meeting a year or so ago, where the developers and the climate change group from DA was there, and basically I put my penneth in about modular construction. I was told to shut up, and the reaction from the developers was, "Oh, we've tried it. We're not interested in it. It doesn't work for us." The thing is, it's not a question of what works for them. It's a question of what works best for the island. And to me, what is critically important at the moment with the island is we have to focus on what the island needs. I mean, there's too much global focus. I mean, people worrying about what's happening in Ukraine, in Palestine, in Gaza, everywhere else. But it's what's happening here. Because what are we going to... I mean, look at the moment. We've got a situation where 2 of the boats that we are critical to this island hanging together are out of action, right? Where's that going to go? I mean, we were promised that this new boat was all singing or dancing, but when you hear that such a basic thing as the main bearings on the drive shaft are not basically fit for purpose. They've obviously used a substandard metal on them. And what else are they going to find with that boat? You know, it's already a problem because of its deep hull configuration, that it's difficult landing. They have to play with landing because of, you know, it's endless. And, you know, if we do not get people in the House in this upcoming election who effectively can cut through all the bureaucracy and say, we need to do this now. We need to legislate for modular construction now. All the validation of the concept is there. The training potentially is there, and it isn't that great, but it's there. And if we don't, where are we going to go? I mean, another line, I mean, I was really pleased to see that John Shimminson's Peter is standing for the House. I mean, I listened to his electoral broadcast with you guys the other day, and I was just blown away. I mean, I worked with John for a long time on sustainability, which was a mutually shared passion we both had. I mean, as a result of which the passive house at Janet's Corner were built. Peter seems to me like John Shimmin on steroids. He's amazing. You know, such a young man to just be. But then, I mean, he's grown up in a family with someone who's, I believe, one of the best politicians we've ever had in the
At this point, I have to say that Chris Thomas is also standing in Douglas Central, Andrea Krieger, Anne Corlett and Devon Watson. Oh,
yes, I know. I mean, actually, it's something interesting. I mean, I'd hopefully get a chance to ask Devon what on earth he's playing about. Opening up the beach, the Douglas beach, to dogs. I mean, that is inexplicable. I mean, I was out the other day and I was chatting to a young couple who'd come over with their kids, and I said, you know that the Douglas Council has just allowing dogs back on the beach, you know, during the summer? And they went, you're joking? I said, no. They said, oh, God, that's ridiculous. I mean, no matter how well trained a dog is, you get loads of young children screaming and carrying on. They get, you know, there's going to be all sorts of problems. And on top of that, I mean, do you really want to have your kids playing on the beach where dogs are, you know, defecating all over the place, even if their owners pick the stuff up, which sadly many of the dog owners on the island do not. You know, wherever you go, even though they're not supposed to go into parks, you can always see the occasional, you know, sort of lump from some dog or other.
Getting back to modular housing, what's the next step for you?
Well, I mean, basically, I'm hoping that we will get a go. I mean, I'm making the individuals, candidates that I'm working with, fully giving them all the information that we have in regards not just the system we built, but the system that Hans Eek and the company etc. Big have built in Sweden. I mean, I was invited earlier this year to the opening of their latest tower block apartment, the 12-storey unit, which they build using their own their novel modular system, which was completed in just over a year. And effectively, sadly I couldn't go because I had cataract surgery, and it meant I couldn't, you know, when the flights afterwards, I had to wait a month before I could fly, and so I wasn't able to go. But I mean, you know, Sweden is Hans Eek, who you possibly remember. I mean, we arranged for Hans Eek to come over in 2009 and give a presentation to the Isle of Man government and the developers on the island and others about modular construction and passive house, which he was the key figure in the development of passive house. Okay. And while Sweden has gone on from strength to strength, sadly, we're still talking about it. Yes, we built the passive houses at Janet's Corner, but we built them in masonry. You know, our advice was build them in modular, but the government didn't want to upset the construction industry, so it was built in masonry with all the problems. I'd never actually been able to find out what it actually cost to build that, but I know it was significantly over the average budget for for social and affordable housing.
All right, John, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for bringing us up to speed on that, and just keep us informed as to where you go next. Okay.
I certainly will. Take care.
Thanks for calling today. I got a note in, just said, whatever happened to the MGP programme? It's not in fuel stations or spa stores. John in Saddleston wants to know, where can he get an MGP programme? I've just read the new school menu on your news. Sounds okay to me. I was still at school, apart from the second choice of curry one day is another curry. The obvious thing is the fish dish is on Mondays and not Fridays. Is traditional. Is that something we're not supposed to ask about these days? That's a note in from 490. Yes, there's new menus in the schools when they go back. Can I just say what a shambles it is? This is Texter 345. Bus vanning made of the service between Peel and Douglas when filming was on the TT course on Saturday. There were over 20 confused tourists standing around Peel at the town hall stop, unable to get a bus to Douglas until after 11 a.m. The Peel to Douglas road was not shut. I spoke to very annoyed and frustrated tourists. They were not left with a good impression of public transport, and I had to drive, which meant I had to change my plans. What was that story? Also a message, what was the drone doing above Tremode last night? There was quite a big drone with a flashing light on it above Tremode. Does anybody know what that was about? And Robert said, surely the thing about clothes is that if you got the money, you've got the freedom of choice with clothes, whether that's online or not. I can imagine the 14% that the big shopping mall in the sky beginning with A is just the start of it. They make billions. Well, yes, but that bird has flown, hasn't it? Although in the end, people don't want to dress in the same fashions. Why go to charity shops? What's that all about? Shabby chic, isn't it? Isn't that what charity shops are all about? A bit muddled. I didn't pick up who commissioned and paid for that fashion survey. I wonder what's happening to the money that was earmarked by government to improve the high street. I believe the officer who was going to be responsible for improving the high street moved to a job in Deffa. Is that true? Well, let's look at this. Now we're heading down to the high streets of the Isle of Man to discuss what this issue, which it doesn't go away. It's the state of the Isle of Man's retail offering. This new study, the 2026 Isle of Man State of Style report, has found that women have rated the clothing offering on the Isle of Man as 3.5 out of 10. And if that were a test at school, they'd probably say could do better. The data was compiled by the Vera Ray Image Consultancy. Other key points raised showed women have low style confidence and want more personal shopping experiences. We sent Darren Timson, who else but Darren Timson, to find out more.
Take a walk down Strand Street in Douglas and you'll see shops like M&S, TK Maxx, New Look, Fat Face, JD Sports, and yes, Next is still here. But are people happy with the options we have? Well, apparently not entirely, so I spoke to Vera Ray's founder and publisher of the survey, Rebecca Hills.
There's not a lot of choice on the Isle of Man. However, that also comes alongside the survey response where it says people aren't so sure of their personal style either, and they're not confident of their personal style. So it really does benefit to know your personal style alongside getting more retail shops and more brands into Strand Street and the rest of the island, I would say. This is a real opportunity for independent stores. They've got a real niche where they can get to know their customers. They can find out from their customers what they're wanting, what style struggles they're struggling with. They've got the opportunity as well for collaboration, which I think is really key on the Isle of Man. Businesses on the Isle of Man do really well with collaborating, whether that could be with myself as an image consultant. It could be putting on little fashion shows, to demonstrate what clothing that they've got in. Just be creative with collaborations, and you can do that, whereas the bigger high street brands and the online brands can't do that.
But what do the shoppers think? I went into Strand Street to find out.
I primarily shop at River Island, but I think places like Flannels, it's just useless. Like, it stays open, and if it gets gets like 10 customers a month. It just seems like you pay to go in at this point.
Being a 4'11" woman, most of the clothes are too big for me. So there's only limited places where I can shop and get like trousers that fit me properly.
Well, I think it's completely true. I mean, we've got no real stores here. Like, we don't have many Zara's or Uniqlo's or anything. We only have JD really, and Marks & Spencer's, if you count that as a clothing store.
Do you think the options are worse for men compared to women, say, on the Isle of Man?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, shops in like River Island, the women's section is just so much better, and for men, we don't really have that much options here.
Any thoughts on the matter? Text, email, call, WhatsApp.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws, to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown, or at Broadway, Douglas, or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
It's time for a summer holiday of exhilarating exploration with the Silverdale Explorers Club. Join our hunt in Silverdale Glen until the 31st of August to win amazing weekly prizes of £50 cash and a giant garden toy. Grab your free Explorer passport and weekly challenge sheet from Silverdale Cafe and photograph the hidden items for a sticker to enter each week's prize draw. Collect all 5 weekly stickers for a chance to win the grand prize. The Silverdale Explorers Club with Silverdale Cafe. Don't miss it!
Now is your chance to recognise inspirational individuals and groups making a real difference on the Isle of Man with the Heroes of Man Awards, brought to you by A Little Piece of Hope charity. From quiet acts of kindness to outstanding community work, nominate your hero or heroes at alittlepieceofhope.com/nominations. That's alittlepieceofhope.com/nominations. Nominations close Sunday the 30th of August, with the awards ceremony late January 2027. Details coming soon. This advert has been kindly supported by Cayman National Bank in the Isle of Man, rewarding relationships built on trust, and your nation's station, Manx Radio.
Alistair Ramsey is back this week to discuss an issue not really mentioned so far in the election. Should rates and local government reform be higher up the political agenda? Why has every attempt so far failed to reform a rate system which is generally regarded as outdated and unfair? Does anyone really know what local and central government are actually responsible for? Find out an agenda this evening at 6:30pm on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gorn. Call me a radical if you like, but surely there needs to be a national debate on what we actually want local government to do. And rates reform? Maybe.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. 22 minutes now before 1. Karen said people used to queue outside the next sale at 5 in the morning. They did. Do you remember? Even in the rain, because that next sale was something else. A message, this is from Charles, who just said, Andy, can you tell me, how can a fire station catch fire? What next, to break in at police headquarters? Shouldn't laugh, really. If it weren't for all the wildfires around the world, surely the fire at the fire station would have made international news. We've not been told yet how it burst into flames with the appliances there, but I'm sure we'll be told at some point. Doesn't matter who gets elected in September, we will follow the UK government, says 053. An interesting point of view, but I don't see how you come to that, because if we followed the UK government, we'll be doing a lot of the things that we do entirely differently. But by all means, do follow up on that. Lovely sandy beach at Portobello in Edinburgh, where dogs and children happily play. I told a dog owner about our rules, and Liz D said they didn't have a problem with it. So I wonder what your view is of this. MGP programmes and classic TT guides available at Bargain Books on Castle Street in Douglas. Thank you, Fran, for the plug. So now you know. Eric's with us now. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Andy. Just make clear at the beginning, I'm ringing as myself, but not as a commissioner.
Okay.
Last week you were saying that the ministers are still in charge until the election. Is that correct?
Well, that's the official word. Yes, Joan Watterson, it was, the president of Timble, said that they may not be MHKs, but if they hold an office, then they're still running the shop, as it were.
Okay, well, I hope Tim Kruko's listened to this. How many more times are we going to have to report in Ramsey of people being injured on drop curbs, crossings that aren't fit to cross? You report them to report a problem, nothing gets done. You ring up, nothing gets done. And we're in the situation, I think it was on Friday afternoon, a visitor being tipped out of a wheelchair on the crossing by the tram station. I think they'd come down on the tram, and she was quite badly hurt. How many more times are we going to have to tell the DOI about these problems?
Have they've definitely been told before, have they, Eric?
Yes, and the same as the ones up by Lloyd's Bank. I could list 100 for you. I've started taking photos of them to send to the DOI, but I'm beginning to wonder what's the point in sending anything to the DOI, because they don't listen. Nobody does anything. You know, when I reported the one at the old Lloyd's Bank in Ramsey, I think there's in a short period of time there was 3 people there that were tipped out of wheelchairs, or their mobility scooters, the small mobility scooters, were turning over because of the problems with the drop curbs. And there, I told them the woman was taken away in an ambulance, and I told them that day, and the following day, they come down, put a little bit of cement in a crack on the pavement, and that was all they did. You know, they didn't do anything about closing it off while they do something properly. You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous in this day and age that we can't have something done.
What needs to happen?
They need to start sending people out. I'm sorry, there's a motorbike pulling up alongside me. They need to send somebody to look at these problems when they're reported, and they should be repaired within a couple of days. You know, and I'm sure it's all over the Isle of Man. It's probably the same problem. But why don't they get a group of men together, you know, that they employ, and have them go and look at these problems and do it? Are they waiting for somebody to die and then be told by the coroner that they should have kept these crossings in order? Because there's no way. They're not keeping them in any order. They're not doing a thing about it. And you can tell them as many times as you like, and you still come across the same problems because they're not repairing them.
What do they say, Eric? If you call them up and report the problem, what do they say? Do they log the call? Do they log the
Yes, they say, right, we'll log that and we'll have somebody look at that and get round to it very soon. Well, how far is very soon? You know, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, because the way it's going, it is years. You know, and they're just not accepting it. And certainly the commissioners are looking at this, but you know, I'm not talking about the commissioners. But you've got a woman come here on holiday, and she gets a tram and ends up lying on the floor, injured. You know, is that what we want to have people in England think that that's what the Isle of Man is like?
Well, obviously not. We don't. But I mean, somebody somewhere has to take responsibility.
But they're not, and this is the trouble. You know, Tim Kruko, when he first became DOI minister, he came down and he met the commissioners. I wasn't on the commissioners then. You know, and everything sounded good from what I believe. You know, they were going to do all these things, everything would be sorted out, but nothing was being sorted out. And I suppose, well, they won't be on your stage. If you talk about this to the candidates that are standing, they'll be full of promises as well. But, you know, if the DOI don't do anything, people are going to continue to get injured, and one day they're going to have, I believe the government insure themselves, they don't actually go out to a company. They're going to have to make some big payouts to people who are getting injured.
And as you say,
on pavement.
As you say, if somebody, heaven forbid, but if anything serious happens, it'll be who'd have thought it then. But if they're getting told in the meantime, surely it makes sense to do something about it.
Well, their answer, and I've heard this before, where they've said that if nobody reports it, they don't know about it, so nothing can happen, right? But how do you know? How do we know if somebody else has reported it? It's only the DOI will know that, you know. And if they don't hand over their logs so that people know something has been reported, and they haven't fixed it, you know. where are they going with it? I know the roads are in a terrible state. Yeah, and you feel that, well, when you're on a bus, the hammering you take on a bus, which incidentally, I believe 7 buses are up the road at the minute with broken windows from trees that are hitting them. Yeah, and the DOI own the bus company, but they're not even cutting the trees down, and you're ending up brand new buses being taken off the road. So what exactly are the DOI doing? I think Alf Cannon said that the DOI is too big, and it's time they made it smaller, and then they could get on with the work they're supposed to be doing.
Okay. All right, Eric. Well, now everybody's heard this. Let's see what happens, shall we?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thanks,
good.
Andy.
All right, good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Jules on WhatsApp says, Jules in Port St Mary said, John's dismay at the forward-thinking decision of Douglas Council. The volume of young families on the beach is minuscule. There's little attraction for young families on Douglas Beach travelling here for holidays, whereas it's a really attractive destination for older walkers with dogs because it's flat. Someone within the council possessing an ounce of common sense has realised this, and well done to them. That's from Jules. Clothing shopping. Everybody knows that there's a lack of clothing choices on the Isle of Man. That's why people have always done day trips to Liverpool. Sounded more like an advertisement for this lady's business more than anything else, says Ali. And I agree with John regarding modular buildings being the way forward. A prime example is rebuilding Castle Rushen High School. The government's wasting £5 million on designing a school that you can buy a modular school off the shelf that would have been built by now if they'd gone the modular route, says Brian. Also, I'm aware that the concrete block plant has been broken for about 3 months now, and since then concrete blocks are being imported at an astronomical... Is this true? The concrete block plant is broken. Anyway, they're being imported at astronomical costs. The government's been burying their heads in the sand and costs are going through the roof, says Brian. And a message in from who initiated the Vera Ray survey? How was it funded? Haven't heard that yet, Carol, but we'll try and find out. I was at the Rumours of Fleetwood Mac gig on Saturday night at the Villa Marina. Excellent performance by the band. A couple of observations. No Oakles bitter on tap. In fact, no bitter available at all. A young girl serving tried to sell me an IPA. Not the same thing. It's MGP, for goodness sake. Not everybody wants to drink insipid lager. We had a bloke and 2 girls in front of us who chatted through the whole performance until eventually a security staff member had a word with them and they scuttled off. There was an announcement before the performance. Haven't got a clue what was said, as there was such a poor recording and there was too much noise in the room. Still had a good night. So Steve, did you go to see the Rumours of Fleetwood Mac? They always do a good show, don't they? And tomorrow night, of course, Jasper Carrot, first of 2 nights.
Welcome to the Miller Chaps of Ramsey Summer Sale, where you'll find fabulous reductions throughout the store, from beds and flooring to sofas, cane furniture and accessories, rugs, pictures, mirrors and even wallpapers. Plus, the friendly Miller Chaps team are here as always with a warm welcome and expert help and advice when needed. Don't miss the Miller Chaps of Ramsey Summer Sale, now on.
Creating a home where you'll love to be. Millie Chaps of Ramsey.
Important dates are coming up for the House of Keys general election. If you want to vote by post, apply early so your ballot pack arrives in good time. You can also hear from your electoral candidates to find out what they stand for before polling day, the 24th of September. Pre-election meetings will be held in each constituency from the 7th to the 18th of September. Visit elections.gov.im to check postal vote deadlines and download the application, and to find your local pre-election meeting details. You can also email elections@gov.im or call 685 754.
Call Corkill Removals and Storage today. Loads big and small, day after day. We'll help you move, we'll help you pack. With a local or global, we've got the knack. Click CorkillRemovals.com.
The countdown to the next Isle of Man general election is officially on. On Thursday, the 24th of September, you'll get to have your say on who you think should represent you in the House of Keys. And here at Manx Radio, we've got all the information you need to help you make your choice. We'll be playing out our full interviews with all the candidates each weekday from just before 11:30, and they'll also be available as podcasts shortly after broadcast, and you can watch them on our YouTube channel. And don't forget, for everything you need to know about the upcoming election, you can head to our dedicated website. Just go to manxradio.com to find out more.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Andy. It's about an abandoned van on King Edward Road in Uncombe.
Right.
Which has been left there for over 4 years. The tyres are flat. There's debris built up behind it. It's at the front of a line of cars normally. And you know, somebody should have done something about it, surely.
Has it got any tax?
I've reported it to DOI.
Has it got any tax, Andrew?
No.
Right.
It's over 4 years it's been there.
So it's not taxed?
No tax. It's a Citroen Nemo. I believe it's a Citroen. It's Citroen Nemo, yes. A compact van. And it's just been left on King Edward Road for over 4 years.
4 years?
My brother knows more about it. He lives opposite it, you know.
And what do the locals say about it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't spoken to any locals about it. I mean, there's a bloke next door who was in the car business. And, you know, I would have expected perhaps him would have done something about it. But no.
Yeah, well, it'd be just interesting to know who actually owns it, because you know you never know. The person may have since deceased. It could be anything.
I think it's NMN, the first letters of the number plate.
And what colour is it again? It's a Citroen, did you say?
It's a Citroen Nemo. Yeah, it's a compact blue van. Yeah,
okay. All right.
Just left there.
All right. If anybody's got any answers on this, please let us know. Thanks for that, Andrew.
Okay, no bother, Andy.
All right, it's 8 minutes to 1 now. Julian's with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Well, very well, I don't know about this weather, though.
Well, we need the rain. It's quite good water, this, isn't it? Because if it's a deluge, it will just run off. So this is kind of good because it'll cool down the surface and it'll get in there and restore the water table and things. And we're quite late, aren't we? I'll crack on. It was mentioned earlier, just in relation to Manx Development Corporation's 37 apartments in the old nurses' home at Ty Clag, or the Clock House. The original business case in 2022 was for a budget of 9 million, and by April of 24, Treasury disclosed that the budget had increased by 23% to 11 million. So it went 2 million over budget from the original budget, and at the moment, the operating costs, 2024, there was an operating loss of 859,000 and a further loss of 690,000 last year. Bearing in mind, this is a taxpayer-paid construction. Yeah. And I was at one or two of the meetings beforehand, and several people were questioning how taxpayer-paid costs would ever be recovered. How they were talking about the rents, who was coming into them, would they be subsidised? Yeah.
Well, we don't know. I mean, I've been to some of these meetings, and there are all sorts of rumours and skeet going around in that it's taxpayer funded, and then the Manx Development Corporation create the whole thing. But nobody knows what the big plan is. I mean, in 10 years' time, when the property value has gone up, the Manx Development Corporation flog it off, and the Treasury gets a profit. What happens? It'd be interesting to know what the end game is for Manx Development Corporation.
Well, that's it. And, you know, it's an unknown because you can't have freedom of information requests, I don't think, even to this day. And then the next project, which is the 133-home Westmoreland Village, that's still ongoing. So we don't know what those costs are going to end up at, and we don't know what the future operating revenues are going to be like. In relation to modular houses, they can be good, but at scale, I think one of the reasons that they chose masonry was because, imagine, you're not only are you not giving local labour because you're bringing the stuff over from the UK, but you've got all the overhead of all the transportation of big heavy modules getting brought over here. So you don't have that factory overhead either of making the stuff and putting it over. So at scale, I'm not sure if modular buildings on an island like this with an expensive supply chain across is actually cheaper to do than making it yourself with the stuff that we've got here already, if you see what I mean.
Well, we don't know quite what's going to happen. As you say, Manx Development Corporation are keeping themselves to themselves, as it were, and we don't really know. There's no timetable, really. There's no timetable as to what's going to start when or what. I mean, everybody hears on the grapevine that government departments aren't releasing land, so Manx Development Corporation are getting a bit hot under the collar about the fact that they don't have the raw material, which is land, and that's what they're supposed to be developing.
Yeah, but I mean, so far it went 2 million over budget, and it's made an operating loss over the last couple of years of 1.6 million loss. So it ain't looking too rosy at the moment, I would say.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
A note in from Sue said, I think it will be cheaper for more free short-term parking. That would encourage more people to shop in town and increase footfall. This would benefit the current offering and might encourage more new businesses. It needs to offer a pleasant, cost-effective experience to entice people back into town. Well, the good thing is, of course, there is free parking on the promenade. However, DOI took away several dozen spaces. And somebody somewhere must have known that's the kind of law of unintended consequences, or maybe intended consequences. So now you have the Marks and Spencer car park that's absolutely jammed, and people buzzing up and down the promenade trying to find a free space, as it were. The retail offering on the island, we seem to have created a noose to hang our sector with. Take Strand Street. When the Shoe Zone lease came for renewal, the landlord wanted to increase from 120 per year to 200,000 per year. A bonkers rent, and Shoe Zone pulled out. After a period of being empty, the car factory ultimately took on a lease. 200,000 a year is a lot of cheap shoes to sell before all other costs are considered. The same situation almost caused Next to vacate the island. Well, that's it. Gotta go. Gotta get out of here. Back tomorrow with another open line. Thanks to Howie on the phones today. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
WINT